Hi, this is Steve from OE Updates, and in this video I want to talk about SMTP, the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, as lots of people have difficulty these days of configuring their email client to use SMTP. And I'm going to illustrate it using this example here, where I've got two email accounts on two different email servers. So I've got an email account or a mailbox, steve@bt.com, located on this server, mail1, and another one, steve@ibm.com, on this email server here, mail2. Now, the diagram's meant to show that SMTP is being used to send email from the email client to the email server, and it is then sent and received on the internet using SMTP. So SMTP is used exclusively on the internet for sending and receiving. Between the email client and the email server, it is only used for sending. Another protocol, POP3 or IMAP4, is used for receiving the email. Now, in the early days of the internet, the SMTP configuration was very, very simple. All you needed to do was to know the address of an email server providing the SMTP service, and you configured your email client to access their email server. You didn't require any kind of authentication, any kind of logon details, like you did with the POP3 access. Now, those days are long gone due to spam and other things. Almost all email providers now require some kind of logon before you can actually send email through them. So when I configure my email client here to send email via this email server here, I will need to configure the SMTP service to authenticate, i.e. to log on, so I need to supply username and password. Now, that is usually the same as the POP3 username and password, and most email clients just have a little tick box which you tick to say use the same. And a new requirement is a valid sender address. What this means here is, if I configure this email client to send email through this email server, I provide a username and password to send the email through the server. The email server will also check the from address in the email, and the from address has to be valid on this server. Now, if I'm using a from address of steve@bt.com, that is valid on this server and the email will go through. But if I try to send an email with a from address of steve@ibm.com through this email server here, then it won't work. So, two things you may have to configure now. One is authentication, that's almost always used these days. And another newer one, which is becoming more and more common, is a valid sender address. Now, this only causes problems when you're in this scenario here, when you've got an email client accessing email from multiple email servers, and that is actually very, very common today. In which case, you normally have to configure the email accounts so that they use the same server as the mailbox is located on. So you configure this email client to use this email server for sending and receiving email for this address, and you'll configure the email client to use this server for sending and receiving email for that address. Okay, I hope that's clarified SMTP a little bit. Until next time, bye.